The architecture, dress, and unique recognition of holidays are reflections of the Puritans' outlook on life. They had an affinity for simplistic design, shunning anything frivolous that could be considered vanity or excessive. Their reasons for doing so were to keep the focus off of worldly pleasure and fully on God. The simplicity in the design of the Puritans' church buildings was meant to limit distraction from the preacher's message and not to waste money on mere aesthetics. Of all places, a church should be the place where the Puritan focused on God the most. The simple architecture promoted this practice as it afforded the Puritan no distraction. There was a group of particularly strict Puritans called the Separatists. Simplistic design was so important to them that one particular group of Separatists refused to use an old Catholic church, opting instead for a house as a meeting place. In this picture, you can see that the pulpit is elevated above everything else and in plain sight for the entire congregation to see. This suggests a great emphasis on the message that the preacher was trying to give, which was ultimately God's message. Simplicity can also be seen in the Puritans' dress, which was usually extremely conservative clothing that was black and white. Again, we can see the Puritans' aversion to vanity, even the appearance of it, through their simplistic, drab choice of clothing. They were made mainly of plain linen, and women were permitted to wear lace. It's interesting that the Puritans allowed the women to express themselves through something that had the potential to be vain or distracting. One very interesting aspect of Puritan life is that they did not celebrate Christmas or Easter. They believed that since those holidays had pagan traditions and roots, they were not fit to be celebrated. However, instead of celebrating these mainstream holidays, they were allowed to celebrate holidays such as the Day of Fasting and the Day of Humility. These days had no set calendar date. Instead, the town minister would determine a time when he felt it was time to observe these holidays. The Puritans didn't live this simplistic life merely for the sake of being simplistic. As their name implies, they were trying to purify the church from error, and the best way they thought to do so was to completely and radically refocus their lives and communities towards God, devoid of distraction. If this meant simple church buildings, boring clothing, and a very rigid holiday schedule, then so be it. The Puritans had a mission to be the city on a hill for the rest of the world, or at the very least, New England.